Now that he's got Iron Man money, Robert Downey Jr. can make any movie he wants, and this is what he wants to make. You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of The Judge.
Forensics found traces of blood on your dad's car. It matches the victim.
We spin these tales.
A man who kills somebody on your watch, a man you released, you don't remember hitting him.
We need to establish a firm defense.
Are you asking if you can represent me?
You can afford me.
The truth can be exposed. There's a strength in letting go.
Dad cannot go to prison. You cannot lose this case.
Robert Downey Jr. and Susan Downey love each other. They are a perfect match, as Guy Ritchie will happily confirm. They already have one child and another on the way, or is that two on the way if you count this movie? Yes, the Downeys have chosen an interesting angle with which to promote the first movie from their new production shingle, Team Downey. The industry trades and magazines are full of glossy photos and personal articles about Hollywood's newest power couple. And with Downey Jr. banking $75 million off of Iron Man 3 alone, they're all too happy to talk about how they divide their time between their $13 million home and the $6 million smaller home they've converted into their Team Downey headquarters. If you'd like to read one of these articles, there's a link in the video description. Now, this tactic is a huge gamble for three reasons. One, it's a fine line between letting the public into your home and bragging. Two, it makes The Judge look like a vanity project rather than a legitimate movie. And three, by keeping the focus solely on themselves, the Downeys will either take all the glory for The Judge or all the blame. Can't co-stars Robert Duvall, Billy Bob Thornton, and Vera Farmiga help lend some credibility and bear the weight for the film? Or perhaps the Downeys want to keep people from realizing The Judge is directed by David Dobkin, who might have directed Wedding Crashers, but his last few projects as director and/or producer were The Change-Up, Jack the Giant Slayer, and R.I.P.D. Interesting choice to helm The Judge, considering the Downeys seem to think this is awards material. Why else debut it at the prestigious award-centric Toronto International Film Festival, where, by the way, it was met with a lukewarm reception. With its awards chances on the ropes, that leaves the box office. The Downeys are likely betting that a Tony Stark-like role as a hotshot, snarky attorney will lure audiences to see The Judge, yet this is a much smaller movie in terms of scale, the kind Downey Jr. used to make back in the day when he wasn't a very big box office draw. Can actors go home again, or has Downey Jr. evolved into a franchise player only? And he has plenty of franchise work on the horizon, with not just Avengers Age of Ultron and Sherlock Holmes 3, but several big pictures Team Downey is developing for Warner Brothers, where their shingle is set up. Films like a live-action Pinocchio, or a treasure picture originally dreamed up by the late Steve McQueen. By the way, isn't it interesting that Downey Jr.'s made Warner Brothers his home, the studio behind his Sherlock Holmes films, rather than Disney? Anyway, maybe this is a vanity project, but maybe we should be happy Downey Jr., the Downeys, are rich enough to keep small movies like this alive in Hollywood's now blockbuster-driven business. It's a vanity project, but to be fair, Robert Downey Jr. does have a lot to show off, and this role is perfectly tailored to him, and it gives him several emotional moments where he can really show off his acting skills, and he, of course, nails them all perfectly. But the movie is very flawed otherwise, and I have to wonder in several different areas for this film if maybe Robert Downey Jr. didn't recognize these flaws because he just was so focused on this being an excellent showcase for himself. And that's why I said I think this is a vanity project. And again, it's nice to be reminded that Robert Downey Jr. is such a skilled actor, but he really deserves a better vehicle than the one he's picked for himself here. So what's the problem if Robert Downey Jr. is so good in this movie and it's very well tailored to him? Well, the movie's just way too long. It is a super long movie, and that's because it tries to just cover way too much ground. And as a result, nothing is ever really seen all the way through to the end. You don't really get any closure to, situations with characters, except, I guess, the big question of the movie, but so many other little questions are introduced, and yet nothing is done with them. For instance, the relationship with his daughter. They make quite a big deal about it, but then never resolved. They just totally drop it. And I think that, speaks to the convoluted nature of the film. For instance, the plot. He comes to town because his mother died, but then it turns into a murder court case where his father is suspected of, running somebody down with his car. That's a crazy leap to, follow that. And I think you could say, well, that sometimes happens in real life, but movies, because they don't take place over the course of an actual life, but have to happen in, a specific amount of time, do need to follow the basic, 3-act structure of a film. And this one is just, it's too zany, it's too out there, and therefore you just don't become invested. And as for the court case itself, it's just used as a device to explore all this family drama, and therefore you never become emotionally invested in the case. You can't even really follow the case. It just exists to get characters to talk to each other who normally aren't on speaking terms. Now, the acting again from Robert Downey Jr. is very good, and there's really nobody else here to point out, except for one shout out that I do have. But this is really just the Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall show, and I suspect the only reason that Robert Duvall is included there is because Robert Downey Jr. can't have the scenes opposite himself. He needs someone to bounce off of. But Robert Duvall, while a very talented actor, just doesn't have the star power of Robert Downey Jr., so he can't convincingly go toe-to-toe with him. And this is one particular instance where you wonder, do you not cast a stronger actor because you wanted to keep the focus on yourself? I mean, I know it's hard in this age bracket because Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, they've retired. I believe Jack Nicholson is still somewhat working, and he would have been good because, of course, he was a specialist in this kind of movie for quite some time, from Terms of Endearment to As Good as It Gets. So I would have loved to have seen Robert Downey Jr. go up against someone he was more evenly matched with. But the shout-out, believe it or not, is for Dax Shepard. Dax Shepard is so good in this film and so charming in such a small amount of time that I was really impressed. And he really actually reminded me a lot of Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid today, not like when Dennis Quaid was, a Hollywood heartthrob, but the kind of persona that Dennis Quaid has developed in this stage of his career. And, small town, everyman who has a heart of gold. And I thought that Dax Shepard had that quality, and I think this might be a good human interest stories might be a good choice for him, and maybe he should be seeking out scripts like that instead of just straight comedies where I think he's largely been working, and of course also on TV. Maybe, I believe he's on Parenthood, right? Maybe he cut his teeth there on the family drama. So, should you see this movie? Robert Downey Jr. is very good. It's a beautiful movie. The cinematography is stunning, although interestingly it takes place in Indiana, but they're actually shooting in Massachusetts. So if you'd like to see this lovely place, there's one diner in particular with an amazing view out the back window. Although, so much of this movie clearly was green screen. For instance, at the diner, I was like, is that real? It looks kind of fake. And often when they were in cars, I was like, that looks kind of green screen. And there was also one shot of Robert Duvall at his wife's grave at the beginning of the movie, and I was like, I know Robert Duvall is at that cemetery because in the wide shot he's there, but in the close-up it looks like you've green screened him in, and it's super distracting. But it is a beautiful film. So I think you might want to see it at some point. And for all the talk it has of family drama, I think it does highlight a few nice things about family drama. The realism of the very special pain and hurt that only families can cause to other family members. I think this movie really does a good job of depicting that. So if you're in that place emotionally, this movie will commiserate with you and maybe make you feel a little better, because it does underscore the importance of at least giving it a shot to stay with your family and be a part of their lives, and there is a reward in that. I think that's a nice message. So that's good, but I think this movie would be best watched at home, because let's say you want to get up and get something to eat or go to the bathroom. You don't have to pause The Judge. You can come back when you do after a few minutes and you'll jump right back into the movie and be just fine. It's that kind of background noise movie. Alright, so that's my review of The Judge. If you've seen it, I hope you'll leave your own thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning in to my review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.